What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Coach's Corner. I'm your host, Coach T-Mac. In this video, I sit down with private defensive backs coach, Coach Flight. We break down introductory techniques for training DBs of all shapes and sizes, and what can be done to bridge the gap between the private sector and program coaches. If you want to catch these conversations live, I stream on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evening, and sometimes on Sunday. But make sure to like and subscribe to the channel to catch all my interview uploads. Now, cue the intro. It parts like the Red Sea. Nobody touches them.
No, it's like when you hear that you made the 105, it's like Christmas morning.
But if the ball comes in the B gap, I gotta make that play.
Right? So not everybody starts at ground zero equally.
Christian White of Little Elm, Texas, originally, but does work all over the state of Texas. I've seen that you've been bouncing around from Houston to Frisco to, all different areas. So welcome, Coach, and thanks for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. And if you want, go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about, kind of your introduction into football. I told them that you grew up in Little Elm, but if you want, just tell them a little bit about your football background.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for you guys inviting me on. And so I originally started at Hebron High School as a freshman and ended up moving to Little Elm, playing there, and then went on and played some Division II ball for a couple of years at Northeastern Oklahoma State. And then injuries kind of cut my career short a little bit, just, a couple foot surgeries back to back. And then I kind of just really started helping my teammates out more than anything with just film breakdown, going over the plays and things like that, and different technique things. And then that kind of transitioned me into just becoming a trainer, more so of just trying to teach a lot of in-game stuff and, helping guys know the mental behind the game, kind of knowing, getting into the playbook, learning the transitions and the offensive combos to look for, just little things to look at on film as well.
Perfect. So, and now you were at Hebron and then Little Elm when? So when did you graduate high school?
2009.
Okay. And so once you injuries cut the college career short, did you basically just start immediately transition into this career and this profession?
Well, it originally started as kind of just me training my younger brother and some of his friends. And then it just kind of was like somebody saw me at the field one day at a park. And then they asked for my information. And then I started working with their kid. And then it just, went from there. I actually was working a full-time job. And I still do to this day as well. I'm actually here now, sitting in the parking lot. So it's kind of just a thing. Like, it's kind of a hobby. But, one day I kind of want to get into coaching at the high school level and stuff and really be able to give back.
Perfect. And when he says it's just a hobby, y'all, but don't let him sell you short. I mean, the man works with a multitude of elite high school players, collegiate players. We were just talking a little bit about, some of the professional connections that he has made and the, I guess, clients that he has. But I think that's one of the greatest things, when you look at the private sector, the guys that, seem to have the longevity and the lasting power are the ones that they create organically, right? So, your first step wasn't to create the website and put the prices out there. It was just to go out, work with your little brother, and then a few people contacted you within the community, and you let it grow from there. And, that word of mouth and somebody seeing something and telling somebody, I think is the best way to do it, because then it's solely based off of the product that you're producing, right? How's he interacting with the kids? What type of technique are they learning? And are they actually getting better? When it grows like that, you can seem to trust it more, in my opinion.
No, that's correct, man. I mean, I think that it's all about the motive of the trainer. I mean, there's a lot of good guys in our Metroplex, the DFW area that I've been blessed to be around and kind of see. Some of these guys, when I first started training, when I was actually training, they trained me, and now they're coaches, and they're helping guys out on the collegiate level, the NFL level, and high school coaches. So it's just kind of like the right guys and always end up in the right situation helping kids. I mean, well, as long as you're in it for the right reasons, man, good things continue to come.
Absolutely. So, and in a little bit of the background information I tried to gather and research, your primary focus is DBs and linebackers. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you're spending time with both of those groups, are you primarily working on pass coverage, or are you covering kind of all gambits from, zone coverage, man, run fits, everything? Or do you have kind of like a niche within their defensive play?
Honestly, most of the stuff that we do is kind of, play recognition, zone and man. And just a little bit with the linebackers, we do work on the run fits. We do work on reading run pass, reading your keys before we just drop out. I mean, I understand there's other aspects of the game than just dropping out into the zone. Just dropping out. We're my DBs. We're doing 3-step read. We're reading quarterback, reading tackle. Trying to see what's going on, run pass, all that kind of stuff, just to keep them mentally prepared. I mean, because and then we really work on the bad situations more than the normal. I don't want to get in here and just teach you how to do the textbook things or the perfect play. This is the perfect. We work on kind of we did a little bit on the run. Now we got to get back to our zone. Now we got to get out here and flow with the play action, the RPOs, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so I like that. You're building a workout or a drill based off of, worst case scenarios, not perfect backpedal stance, everything's exactly how we want it, and trying to make it as game like as possible. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
I got you.
Yes, sir.
So, and let's talk about one of the things that drew me to Coach Flight was just some of the things seen on social media and some of the videos that I've seen for a while. I see a lot of stuff where you're preaching what looks like subtlety to me in the beginning of a back pedal, where I don't know if you're calling it a read step or what, but the guys, when they begin to move, they're not covering a lot of ground. They're not bailing out. They're forcing the receiver to make a decision. Can you talk to us a little bit about that technique? I don't know if it's the off man or what it was exactly, but just watching it looked like there was just a lot of patience in the technique that you're teaching these guys.
Well, especially press, I teach a pure step, which is kind of stopping those guys from just motoring out so quick. So what I've learned from a lot of different collegiate coaches and some of the NFL guys I've been able to train to kind of develop their own techniques that they're good at is we take a pure step, which I step towards whichever foot that the receiver has back. So, and I mean, it's a lateral step, not a forward step. And it's really to stop those guys from just motoring out and giving a free release. And then an off man is similar. It's a read step. It's just like a zero. So whichever foot is back in the back pedal, I kind of pick that foot up, put it back down. So that I'm able to pick it up, put it down as I'm reading 3-step first to see, okay, is this 3-step pass? Do I need to get hot to one? Do I need to, come up and play the run? Like whatever I can fit first. And then once I take that step in the second step, I can see is a quarterback taking a 5-step drop, 3-step drop. Is it a play action? Is it a true handoff? And then we get our eyes hot to one and begin our pedal, the real pedal.
I love that. And that's, I mean, just from the other side of the ball standpoint, from a guy that played receiver his entire life, that's the thing that just drives you absolutely nuts, is a kid that can be patient, right? And take those purposeful steps, whether it be, cutting off a free, a speed release or taking a 0 step to make a read. The guys that can take that step and be patient and be under control, those are the ones that give you the most problems, because whatever it is, that first thing that I've got planned to do to influence you, it's not going to work because you're under control. You're disciplined with your eyes. You're disciplined with that first step. Those are the things that create problems for the offensive players. And I love that. So talk to us a little bit about, I know that you work a lot with Coach Hooks, the receiver coach. Talk a little bit about kind of y'all's setup and how you interact with different, because I know you do individual and group settings. What's kind of the thought or the normalcy in your weekly routine?
So with me and Coach Hooks coming together, it's more so of just route releases and just kind of routes on air. Because, we're firm believers in, we can do all the drills in the world as far as, learning all these techniques and things. But if we don't test it before we actually get to the in-game situation, then we won't know where we're weak at. So, I'm big on, hey, let's get out here and let's do things the right way. So when we do go with the receivers, there's tennis balls in hands of my DBs, or we do the boxing glove technique to where these guys can't grab, and it's just pure coverage. No grabbing shirts, no holding, straight punching, for the jam, moving your feet lateral, using your feet to jam, and things like that. And then learning the physicality of the wide receivers, because there's different receivers. Some guys come off and they're finesse guys and they're trying to beat you with their feet. And there's some guys that are just pure brawlers. They come off the line, ready to fight, ready to get hands on, and things like that. So we're just preparing for all of it. And then my group settings, big groups for me is 10. I don't like doing any more than 10 kids. Even before the COVID-19 stuff kind of came out, I'm just real big on getting reps, like reps. Even when you're not in, you're getting visual reps. You're learning. When I stop, when we start getting coaching points, those are reps. So I'm big on guys maximizing their reps and being able to get as much as they can within that hour. And then, when we go small group or private, it's really more individualized specialty to that player. So, if I feel like a guy needs to work on his foot speed or kind of his lateral quickness and things like that, I'll build the workout around moving east-west. Like my linebackers, get a good run flow, good shuffle, be able to transition from the shuffle to the run, from the shuffle to the downhill run fit, how to hinge out in the curl, things like that.
I got you. Perfect. So there's not like a one blanket structure to your workouts. If it's you and Coach Hooks, y'all aren't doing the same thing every time. And if you're working individual, every kid's not doing the same thing. You've got the ability and the freedom to tailor that to either what their weaknesses are or whatever they tell you they want the point of emphasis to be for that individual workout.
Yes.
I got you. Now, how does your technique differ when you start talking with linebackers? What are some of the primary coaching points that you're going to spend, with those guys when it comes to linebacker play?
The thing that I think that, and this is my personal opinion. I mean, there might be other coaches who think otherwise, but a lot of linebackers, especially at the high school level, they play very, very wide. As far as like when you see a kid shuffle and his elbows fly out, like it looks like wings flapping.
Right. Yeah.
I try to clean that up more so as to where we're a little bit more elbows in, and it helps with your change of direction is what I'm really big on for a linebacker. And I think I've heard, through my experience with working with Under Armour in the All-American game and the selection committee, I've heard other people from other states seem to think that the state of Texas does not develop good linebackers. And I was just like, well, the game is fast here. A lot of our linebackers are playing defensive end. Guys who I feel like would be elite level linebackers are playing DN, and we're bringing big safeties or DBs who can't really move as well and putting them at the linebacker spot to help out with the run game because we have a lot better athletes here. So I'm really big on having those linebackers move at an elite level, like keeping those elbows in. We do a lot of footwork stuff with, going around cones with 1 foot or 2 feet and really just working on eliminating steps when it comes to getting out to these drops. Like, when you're getting to the hook zone, we buzz at the beginning and then we drop out. I'm teaching them how to take the least amount of steps to get to that and, and help get their feet back on the ground too as well. I feel like linebackers are big DBs. If you look at some of the best in the league now, Luke Kuechly is one that I love to watch. And if you watch Luke Kuechly during pregame warmups when he was playing, dude, his back pedal is better than most DBs.
Mm-hmm.
His back pedal, his hips, and that's why, 1 year he was one of the leaders in the league in interceptions. He was able to be deceptive with his movement, flow with the run, and then drop back to the hook, drop back to the honey hole and things like that. And then if you watch the San Francisco 49ers linebackers from this past year, those guys are freaks. In the Seattle defense, when they had the Legion of Boom, their linebackers were screaming to the curl. Like it was impossible. That's why they're able to run this cover 4 and cover press bell, cover 3 that they run, because of the linebacker play is so elite. It's like, dude, you can't throw hot routes out there because they're getting out of there and causing problems out there in the hook zone and stuff like that.
Absolutely. It's funny that you brought up Luke Kuechly. I just watched a YouTube, like a 20-minute YouTube breakdown of a part of, his career and, the fact that he retired pretty early just yesterday. And it's like you said, he's just an absolute freak of nature. And guys, if y'all do have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and I'll relay them. But let's talk about the Under Armour selection committee. How did you get in touch with or contacted by the Under Armour All-American game?
They were kind of keeping up with me. One of my good buddies works with them, and he just, he befriended me early and just kept tabs on my progression as a trainer and the kind of the kids that was coming out of my program. And then it was one of those things to where it was like, hey man, this guy be better to have than to go against. And I mean, and they really brought me in, and I was able to learn from guys like Deion Sanders, Ryan Clark, Ed Reed, and hearing their stories and hearing how they came about and how they worked and the work ethic and the type of footwork stuff they did and the drills and how the off seasons were. And, talking to those guys daily, Antonio Cromartie as well as another guy, he trains down in Houston now, and just talking to those guys and just hearing the grind and how they really put in the hours. And I relay that to my kids all the time, man. Like we're talking about guys that come from different backgrounds. Like Ryan Clark was a guy that had to scrap his way into the NFL, man, and just refused to quit. And became one of the best Steelers, to play and had a really solid NFL career. And then, Deion is one of the most gifted, athletes to touch the planet. And even then, he still was a worker. He's passed that down to his kids and he relays it to the kids of the Under Armour game every year. So, it's just like, through 7-on-7 and just training, I've been able to come across a lot of really good kids in the state and build relationships with them and kind of help guide them through this process to being great high school athletes on and off the field, and then transitioning that to the college game as well.
I got you. And so now your role within that selection committee, without giving away too many secrets or anything, what does that process look like? How do those games or those committees or those selection teams, what does your process look like whenever y'all come together and start to make those decisions?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's really more so about just finding talent early. I mean, we have some really good talent evaluators, Demetric Warren and Jerry Hamilton, 24/7 or they're with ESPN, excuse me. Those guys are some of the best at finding kids very early, seeing them. And it's actually like they kind of find them and then send them to us. And like, hey man, who is this kid? And I'm like, well, I don't know who he was, but I'm definitely gonna look into it now. Or they kind of see some kids that we already have and say, hey man, I think this kid is gonna be the one. This is a kid that you just can't miss. That'll get his name called on Sundays one day, and so that's just kind of where it goes from there. I mean, there's other variables that come into it that I can't really release.
For sure, yeah.
It's just finding the talent early, because the games are very competitive. The Adidas game is very good at finding talent as well. And with us, being in Texas, they kind of almost have the first pick. With the Texas players, they come, they get those guys down there to San Antonio. It's a great atmosphere, great environment, and the high school coaches are involved, man, and I love it. I love to see the high school coaches interacting with players from across the country. You get a chance to see how every state's best lines up, for a week. We get to find out, well, how did the kids from Florida look? How did the kids from California, the guys from Jersey, there's guys everywhere. There's talent that comes from everywhere. So it's just kind of, you got to be able to see a film and recognize, okay, is this kid dominating because of competition level, or is he dominating because he's just that good,
For sure. Love that. Yeah, no, definitely not trying to pry any of the super secrets out of you, just so guys get an idea of kind of like what that process looks like. We do have one question. When you start talking about linebackers, Heath wanted to know, how are you coached? Like, what's your primary points when you're talking to linebackers about getting guys out into coverage, as far as like first step, second step, read step? What's your primary coaching points to get them out there, aggressively?
I'm very big on eyes and play, and that goes for all positions. On defense, eyes have to be great. So I'm teaching the proper, hand mechanics and footwork things, but the eyes are very key. In pad level, you have to keep your weight down, especially when we're talking about getting to the hook and then transitioning to a shuffle. Because once we get out there, we got to find work. We're not covering grass, so You can't be high playing being linebacker, and you can't take these very long steps. Like that was our, I had a linebacker session today, and the teaching point was, hey, let's be quick, let's be light on our feet, let's get our feet back on the ground. Let's keep our elbows in, let's not be too wide, and it really affects the transitions. I mean, I'm gonna probably drop some linebacker film later this month. We're gonna have like a little linebacker session, and I got a lot of guys that play on Saturdays and Sundays is gonna be out and just kind of showing the difference, between guys that are getting out there, the speed of the game. We got to really haul to the curl. We got to get out there, especially if you're the wheel on the weak side. We got one, whatever. However the calls happen, you got to get out to that curl. So it's like we can't sit here and be taking these strides and these long steps to where we can't transition because yeah, we're getting to the curl, but if the running back comes to the flat, we got to come up. So it's just things like that they have to know before they get into the game, because also it helps you on film as well, as far as if you see a kid drop to the curl and then transition his weight, and then all of a sudden the quarterback throws the flat. By the time the running back turns upfield, he's getting hit. That's how the game should go right there, the flow of the play. It shouldn't be if the running back catches the ball, he turns upfield and runs 10 yards, and you make an open field tackle. We should be able to recognize that right away.
Absolutely. And then one question I had, because you kind of touched on it, and I just want to circle back to it. 7-on-7, and I know that this has been pretty well documented, especially in the state of Texas. Point of contention a little bit from the high school coaching staffs with the select 7-on-7, because they see it as pulling away from team activities and things of that nature. Yes. Talk to us a little bit about, because you're closely tied to a specific 7-on-7, I guess you'd call it, program.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about like the primary kids that are involved with that program, and do you feel that it interferes at all with the high school 7-on-7 that usually goes on when we're not in lockdown?
And see, I feel that we do it a little different with our program. I am with Texas Flex, me and Coach O that runs Coach O recruiting. We're basically co-head coaches. We're running it together, and just the way the program should be run, I honestly feel like school sports come first, and that's not just me saying that. We've been preaching it all year to our kids. If you have a track meet, go. If we find out you skip track because of 7-on-7, you will not play. You will not suit up. You will not play. If you have track, if you have baseball, basketball, whatever it is that you have, go do your school sports, because school sports is where you get recruited. Not many kids, I'm not going to sit here and say nobody gets recruited off 7-on-7, because I've seen it happen, but not many kids do get recruited off 7-on-7. No coach wants to see underwear heroes. What we use 7-on-7 for is a training tool. I use it for my DBs to get in game. We run a match quarters defense. I mean, I'm going to put it out there for everybody. I mean, pretty much after every tournament, teams are like, well, what are you running? I'm like, well, just we're not running that, what y'all are running. I can tell you that. We were averaging about 40 a game at 7-on-7 with our offense, and on defense we're running the quarters. We're running press quarters. We're running we run a lot of mod. We switch off. We do a lot of high-low reads and stuff like that. Split field coverage. So it's really what every high school in the state of Texas basically has in their package at some point. Somebody's running a matchup zone type defense. We're reading two with the corners. On some plays, the corners are taught to take the first vertical, and then my nickel is going to take the first thing out shallow, and my dime is going to take the first thing that comes into their area. So we're doing a lot of different things, teaching kids those aspects of the game, because not every kid that plays corner in high school is going to go play corner in college.
100%.
I have and on that team, on that defense, we have Deuce Harmon just committed to Texas A&M. JD Coffey, Ishmael Ibrahim are both going to make a decision on June 15th. Chase Lowry, another good guy. Andrew Makuba, I think he's going to make a decision here pretty shortly too. Jalen Peoples, a young corner that's coming up in the game. Just a sophomore guy that's picking up some stuff. The offense was insane, man. Garrett Nussmeyer, LSU commit, J. Mike Sturdivant, got his top four out there, and then we got a ton of young talent. Armani Winfield, Evan Stewart, two young 4-star All-Americans already, receivers. Anthony Black is on the rise, so it's just kind of like helping those guys get game tested. And if you can do it on the circuit the right way, then when you get to the season, it's easy. It's very easy. I mean, I've seen Deuce Harmon make strides from sophomore year to junior year just by getting on that circuit and seeing elite level guys that he may not see week in and week out. You play for a team like Den Geyer, you're probably not playing the second half a lot of games. So it's just more reps, more reps, getting reps. But you got to do it the right way, man. There is a lot of programs that have kind of tarnished the 7-on-7 name. And I'm all for it, man. I would love to see it transition to where high school coaches are allowed to get into the game and really get involved with it in the summer, because I think that part of the game is huge, for the secondary to be in sync and guys familiar with each other, because then it carries into the season. Because the main thing is teaching kids how to do their job and trusting their teammates to do theirs. Because a lot of mistakes happen when kids try to do somebody else's job.
Absolutely. And I think that might be like the biggest disconnect you see with the, I guess, select style 7-on-7 is, most coaches from the high school level, they look at it as like, well, you're trying to pull them away from what we're doing in 7-on-7. But I think a team like this or a program like this is creating new opportunities, like you said, for them to go against a little bit higher level competition. If you're a Power 5 kid that's got, 15 offers at the end of your junior year, but you're in a Dallas ISD football district, and you're playing against those local teams, or you may not have a 7-on-7 team through your school, then that's a lost opportunity. And I think when it's used that way, like what you're describing, that's when it becomes beneficial and it becomes helpful for the kid. And I think that kind of goes with the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is, the private coaching with, working in partnership with the high school staffs. Have you seen any or heard any pushback from like high school staffs for you personally? I mean, we know it exists out there from a private sector standpoint, but have you experienced any of that ever?
No, I actually worked firsthand with a few high school staffs myself. I go to Texarkana, and I do a lot of work with Texas High on some things. Me and Coach Stanford have a pretty good relationship, and he was the first to reach out to me and say, hey, man, I really want my guys out here to see what you do. And then it kind of trickled down. I mean, there's a lot of coaches around who reach out to me and let me know, hey, we like what you do. We see your stuff, keep doing it. The only disconnect is when there's a lack of communication, like we were discussing earlier. If a kid skips school workouts to go to do an extracurricular thing, they never just tell the coach, hey, this is me doing this on my own. If I never ask a kid, does he have workouts, a kid won't tell me yes. So, that's where I kind of got hands-on. I start asking for schedules. Hey, if you guys got track meets, let me know. I'll show up to the track meet. I'll change my workout schedule on the weekend, and I'll come watch you guys run. I love track and field, man. Like, I love it. I ran it. I ran track for 4 years. I ran it in college for 2. I know how big of a difference maker it is when it comes to playing the game of football, having speed. Speed is one thing that changes the game. And then I love powerlifting. I'll go watch you powerlift. I'll come watch you play basketball. I'll absolutely come watch you play football. So it's like, those kids have to understand those things come first. And that's where the conflict is where it comes to coaches. A lot of kids and parents take it upon themselves to go seek extra help. Sometimes it's not needed. I mean, just me being honest, a 4-star kid who's already a 4-star that never trained doesn't need to go to a trainer. Would it be nice? Yeah, it's cool. But I mean, if he has the tools and he can play, then there's no reason to skip film on Saturdays after a game to go do something else outside of school. There's no reason to do that when we have a whole off season and weekends during the off season where you can do stuff like that.
For sure. And I think that's the big thing. Like you said, it's just a continued partnership and the communication. Like I said, when I was in grad school, I would do a little bit of this. One of our biggest things was making sure that there was an active, open line of communication with us and somebody on that kid's high school staff. Hey, this is what our goal is. What can we integrate from, your standpoint to further what you're teaching him, Monday through Friday at practice, this, that, and the other. So, and
that helps too as well, man, because I honestly believe that the disconnect comes from, like we were saying, lack of communication, but I think it's also a lack of effort for people to want to communicate. I mean, we're all adults in this business. Well, majority of us are. So I think that we should be able to put our pride to the side. I have no issue reaching out to a high school coach and asking him, hey, coach, what's the techniques that you guys run? Or what are you guys working on at school so I can bring that to your kid? So that way, whenever he comes back to school, it's not like, hey, we spent the whole summer working on press man and this kid may not press one time during the school.
Right.
So it's
Exactly.
things like that that just have to be touched on.
Love it. Well, man, it looks like that you're about to get it, up and going at the full-time gig. So, but I love the fact that you came on and talked a little ball with us. And I really want, I would love to continue to bridge that gap between high school staffs, private coaches, because we are limited in the amount of time that we can spend with our kids, and y'all aren't. So when that partnership's built and we can work together and just continue to further those kids, kind of like you and I talked about this weekend, just helping those kids be the best version of themselves, improve their situation, and that's the ultimate goal. I think that if we can continue to build that bridge and make that happen, it's only going to end up being positive for everybody.
Absolutely, man. And it's going to make things easier for everybody because, as we know lately, with this stuff going on, kids are needing to get work. And that's why I'm pushing conditioning this week. Kids are needing to get work, stay in shape. They start back up with the actual schools next week, and then it's like, we still aren't allowed to practice. So, nobody knows what the next step is for us. Are we gonna be able to have practices with our kids? Are we gonna be able to have a season, like stuff like that that's coming up? So it'd be really good for all the trainers in the state to kind of really connect with the coaches, figure out what the coach wants his guys doing. Like my college guys and my NFL guys, their actual teams are like, hey man, send us videos of you doing these drills. So now I'm coordinating with the teams, like, hey man, what kind of drills do you want to do? What techniques are we doing? What do you want us to send in? And then it's helping these guys in the offseason stay in shape, of course, stay on the team and things like that. So
love that. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, man. Again, I appreciate it. Heath, I know we missed a question there, but I'll make sure to include, your social media information. Instagram and Twitter is the same. And he responded really quick. I reached out to him. He didn't know me from Adam, but I greatly appreciate it. And Coach, would love to stay in touch and just continue to chop it up and talk ball with you, man.
Yes, sir. Anytime, man. And once again, I appreciate you for reaching out in the first place, man. And I'm glad that you gave me this opportunity to get on here and speak.
No problem, man. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
So there you have it. Big shout out to Coach Flight for joining us to talk some ball, some DB play, and more importantly, figure out how we can begin to bridge the gap between program coaches and private coaches. Thanks, guys, for stopping by the Coach's Corner. And remember, I stream on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evening if you want to catch these conversations live. Until next time, thanks for stopping by the Coach's Corner. It's just butter.
We win gulags, baby.